Hey, what's going on, good people? It's your boy James Harris, of course, Mental Heal. Listen, I appreciate all the support over the years, whether it was for my book, man, Just Express Yourself, which is an interactive planning guide for boys and men to better express themselves. So salute to those parents who got it for their young sons. Praises to those partners and couples who got it for the men in their life. Of course, to the schools, the administrative, and everybody else who ordering the book by the dozens. I definitely appreciate that. And also salute to everybody who supported me on Cheesy Date Board Games, which is a good game for adults and couples, your game night, your date nights. So many interactive ideas come from it. I definitely love the responses that it's garnering. But now I'm asking for your support again on this YouTube journey. I'm back. I took a little break because I had so much going on, but be a little bit more consistent with it. I got a couple interviews lined up with prominent people and people doing phenomenal things within the community or within this mental health space or even different authors and things like that. So bear with me. Appreciate your support. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And the guest that I got coming up now is
Man, everything is everything, man. Blessed to have another day. What about you?
Nah, man, the same. So you just accomplished something that a lot of people probably want to do, but haven't had the time or, just the ability to do it, and that's dropping your first book. So tell me about the book.
Man, the process of the book, firstly, man. Now, luckily for me, having like attended HBCU, lived that lifestyle, the experience, it was easy for me to put pen to paper. That was the easy part. Now, I will say, based off of, like you said, with time, being pulled in so many different directions, having being a part of so many things. This book was probably done last year sometime, right? But just being pulled in so many different directions, I wasn't able to, actually sit down and live with it. But the book writing process, the content was the easy part. To me, the tough part was the end. Now it's time to submit. And luckily, I had you, like going to publish it, all of the questions I had about, you know, how should I publish this? How should I go about it? You was a great resource for that. But like I didn't I edited it myself. I formatted it myself. The cover, all of those things I did by myself. And I did a couple of submissions of book babies, and they kicked it back a couple of times. So every time they kicked it back, I went in there and tried to do the updates and finally got it done. So
Yeah.
the formatting and the actually uploading it, that was the tough part of the process for sure.
But I appreciate that snippet insight. I'm gonna get back to the book, man, but just tell the people who you are.
Yes, man. My name is Ronald Dingle. Raised up in Northern Virginia. Went to Virginia Union University. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2014. I went back during COVID. I started back up and I got my master's in science and criminal justice 2023. Proud initiate of the Zeta chapter Z Squad at Virginia Union. And actually the bosses of the 5-5 chapter currently.
I got you, man. So you're a two-time graduate of a HBCU.
Yes, twice. And that experience, I don't think I would change it for the world.
So why'd you personally pick a HBCU over a PWI or a non-traditional college?
Man, I'll say firstly football. I went to Virginia Union with the hopes of playing football. I went on a campus visit. It was very off the bat. It was very intimate, and just hearing like the class sizes and the class size at HBCU. Hey, you might have, especially at a smaller HBCU, I'll say, you might have 15 to 20 people. Where if you go to predominantly, white institution, it's 100 people in the class or more, right? And I appreciated the environment where I could have a one-on-one conversation with the professor, and I think that's something, one of the experiences that I'll take with me, forever. But the HBCU experience, and I had no previous knowledge of HBCUs when I first started looking. Everybody obviously playing sports want to go D1 to those top schools, but I had a friend that was at Virginia Union, and he said, "Hey, come by, I'll give you a tour." and it really stuck with me from there.
I got you, man. So I started off at a small HBCU too. So the intimacy of the class sizes, I know firsthand. I went to St. Paul's. I did 2 years there, went off to the military, came back, and that joint was closed.
Yeah.
So it's tough, man. We definitely got to support our HBCUs, whether it's funding, whether it's sports, and so many other things. So St. Paul's only had two dorms. They had a male dorm and a woman dorm. Like that's how small and intimate the joint was. So the class sizes was between 10 and 15 people. So it was a lot of connectivity with the administrative, the faculty, the staff, the professors, and your classmates. So it was a dope experience. I definitely don't take that for granted. But since it was in the middle of nowhere, we used to go places like State or St. Aug or either, come back to Virginia Union. So it definitely was some fun times there, man. So back to the book, man. What's the title of it?
The title of the book is the HBCU Handbook. It's to me it's straightforward, right? Everybody you think about, there's no blueprint in almost anything in life, but the HBCU experience, I mean, like, man, what is it going to be like? It's so many. Even being in school, I was trying to navigate like, what can I do this? Can I walk here? Can I do this? And and in my experience, so many people hanging out on the plot. Somebody will say, "Hey, well, I don't know if we could come over." Those things that you don't really talk about. You don't. Nobody tells you ahead of time. You kind of have to learn on the go. So that's
Yeah.
why I named it the HBCU Handbook.
When you say the plot, I know what you're referring to, but for the people
Right.
who are there, you're speaking of the D9 community.
Right, right. So the fraternities and sororities that have their basically, their own plot of land within the school, where they typically hang out, they socialize, they fellowship. And for somebody that's not initiated into that organization to walk on that plot would be viewed as disrespectful, right? But if you don't know, then you're already setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
So get the book.
So you got to get the book. So when I was flipping through, man, I just started at the beginning with the table of contents. You got preparing for the HBCU, which is a phenomenal thing. So if there's any parents out there, any students who are now preparing to go on these tours, it's definitely a lot of insight. Then you got your first day on the yard, so there's a lot of vernacular in there that you're using that one can
Mhm.
subscribe to if you're in that atmosphere, which is a phenomenal thing. Then you got a cafe. Again, I went to a small HBCU, man. So the cafe, it was only open 3 times. It wasn't no like the other students. You got this joint that you can just get sandwiches or whatever. No,
Yep.
if you ain't
Mhm.
get breakfast, lunch, and dinner at that window, you was
Yep.
done. You had to go
Yep.
around the corner, to the corner store or something. So was it like that at Union?
Absolutely. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They started it out where they had a place called Mondo where you can go get like subs or stuff after like a certain amount of time, but it was gone by the time I graduated. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you missed those hours, man, you be going to cookout or warming up some ramen.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. So I
Mm-hmm.
did my oldest, she's a freshman in college now. She's not at HBCU, she's at a community college, financial reasons, just
Mm-hmm.
make sure everything good. I wanted to prepare her as much as possible. But on the college tours, we went to Spelman, um, North Carolina A&T, Howard, and Clark Atlanta. And there probably was another one in there, just to get her the feel of what the HBCU is, what the college culture life is, so many different things. And one of the main things in your book that you talk about is these homecomings. It's nothing like a good homecoming, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of Union, the Hovey Field, the Soul Bowl, and all that stuff, a Gold
Mm-hmm.
Bowl. So, tell me a little bit more about the homecoming for the people who aren't familiar with what it is, because you see on movies the Battle of the Bands,
Mm-hmm.
you see a lot of people migrating in to get connected with their old classmates or to get
Yep.
life or whatever the case is. But anything else about homecomings that you can remember or that you touch on within the book?
Yes. So, without trying to give away too much, one thing I'll touch on, a homecoming for those who are not familiar, just think of it as a big family reunion. And that's the art of the homecoming, man. Like I have people that it's so many people that didn't graduate from Virginia Union who might have started the journey with you, but they still come back after all these years to homecoming. You get to see people that you know haven't seen in years, right? And it's really like a family reunion. You get to embrace, you get to hang out, and for that brief period in time, those couple of days, it's almost carefree. You go back to just, and man, so many people. I probably saw more after COVID, but so many people said that homecoming experience is one that they needed so much. Like, because life be lifing, and then in college is probably one of those last times where you can have almost a carefree experience. So going back to the homecoming experience and seeing people that you used to kick it with, and I think college friends they get you right because you all are broke, right? Y'all are putting in money to try to get a bottle or putting in money to go to the club. Those college friends, they get it, because they with you when you really got nothing.
Yeah, and then to graduate or leave town and go somewhere else and realize you got this person as an ally, you got them as a support system, you got
Mm-hmm.
them as a resource. Like it's a entire networking pool of people. Like just even now, man, just so many people I'm connected with all over the world because people disperse, they done branched out. So something else you touch on within your book is the relationship. So pretty much what we're talking about now, the
Mm-hmm.
networking aspect, the lifelong bonds, whether it's a teammate or somebody that was in class or somebody helped you study or somebody work with at work study. So talk a little bit more about those relationships.
Man, the relationships at HBCU, and don't get on me too much, educators, but one of my professors told me it's not about the grades you make, it's about the hands that you shake. Um, just building relationships with people because you never know when you leave those walls, right? Who you might come across, right? Um, if I'm a hiring manager and I see somebody that I went to school with, first thing I'm thinking about, man, how was they in school? First I'm making sure that my name is going to be good, right? But if it's a neck and neck decision to make, and it's somebody who went to an HBCU or my HBCU, as opposed to somebody else, you kind of give that advantage, right? Because most HBCU graduate students they kind of have the same experiences, right? So you kind of relate with one another in that aspect.
I
And like I said, those are lifelong friends that you make. Some of my best friends today I met in college. People that I wouldn't think I would even be friends with, but here we are, man.
definitely, man.
10, yeah.
So those relationships, it's so wild because like to be black, it's not one of those monolithic experiences. We all different, but some of our stories are the same. Like we went to different schools. Your HBCU is different from Howard, different from Norfolk State, Virginia State, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, all those. But I'm sure if you put us all in the same room, the story is gonna be the same, It's based on those experiences. So that's a phenomenal thing. And the last thing I want to touch on about your book, because it's so pivotal to us, of course, is the Greek life. So dive a little bit into that, man. I see you got a lot of accolades behind you, and of course, you definitely a staple within your Greek organization, our Greek organization. Um, touch on that a little bit, brother.
Yeah, so I kept it really vague in the book, intentionally, because you always want those people that's interested in those organizations to seek it out. But man, the Greek life, I'll give my story. Initially, I didn't know anything about Greek life. I'll preface saying when I was in high school, I had an athletic trainer. He always kind of tried to push me in the right direction. Very good dude. Um, that happened. I went off to college, and I noticed the bros on the yard, the Omega Psi Phi, for y'all. I noticed the bros on the yard, just their demeanor, how they carry themselves, and I became friends with them. And I've noticed that in the bros, they acted like a family, right? In the house, they would argue and they would bicker, but when they went out, it was like it was us against the world, right? And they never let that show outside of the home. and that stuck with me all throughout. Then I started doing I went back home for summer. We always used to go back to the high school and help out with the high school football during the summer. And I went to the athletic trainer's room, and I noticed he had Omega Psi Phi on his keyboard. I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you was one of them." He was like, "Yeah, man, you should look into it." That's all he said. He didn't, try to sell me. That's one thing that the bros never try to recruit you. It was like, okay, if you want it. So I went back and then I started doing some research and especially for Zeta chapter, I saw that we had L. Douglas Wilder, like first governor. I was like, man, he's Z Squad, like Langston Hughes, all of those guys who I looked at as role models and like big deals. I realized that they're part of this fraternity too. So it piqued my interest, and then it was a done deal for me.
Yeah, no, I got you, man. And the phenomenal thing about the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated is the legends of these people. Like you said, like nobody's walking around bragging about it. They just doing the work, and you like, oh man, this guy's sharp. And then it's uncovered or revealed that oh, that's part
Mm-hmm.
of Omega.
Yep.
That's how my journey was. Like I was a deviant in high school, this large, gloomy person, man, assistant principal, and just I took to him, and he used to help me out a lot. I've seen him feed students, I've seen him give away coats. What I mean? Just like, oh, he's a good person. Everybody was wearing bad, and then later I found out that he was a member of the Omega Psi Phi, and that right there, like, just opened my eyes to it is some good people in this world. So that helped me out a lot, man. So I definitely appreciate you tackling that. And also it's literally nine uh organizations within HBCUs that one can gravitate to. So of course, yeah, make your own decision. You can have some honor societies sprinkled in there as well, band societies as well, organizations. So do what's best for you in that situation. Just try to find that family aspect, find what fits you, and don't try to fit within a certain organization. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. Because this is a lifelong thing, right? So people need to make sure that they do their due diligence. They're joined for the right reasons, especially in these last couple of years. We've seen so many people denounce organizations, right? That's because they don't really fully understand, you know, what they're interested in or what they're getting themselves into, right? So do your research. It's no rush, and if you're not fortunate to get it at the undergraduate level, if you truly want it, there's graduate chapters that people can definitely get into.
Yeah, nah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely you giving yourself a part of the organization and vice versa. Assist the community, assist people in need. Is so many different aspects to it, opposed to just wearing the color. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely encourage everybody to do that. So yeah, those are some of the phenomenal titles that you have in this book. So I'm sure deep diving into these chapters is definitely gonna make a difference. So in your own words, though, what do you hope people obtain from this book, whether if it's a parent buying it for their high school senior or a senior looking to go to a HBCU, or somebody at a PWI looking to transfer, or whatever the case is, or that person that's in a HBCU like, yo, let me
Yeah,
just everybody experience, which it sounds like it is. So what do you hope that people obtain from the book?
yeah. I really hope that people get out of this a level of relief, right? Especially those students who are going away for the first time, not knowing what to expect. I even touch on the book, uh, getting your roommate assignment, right? That's a tough one. Some people don't typically want to room with somebody, right? But something as small as, hey, are you going to bring your refrigerator or should I bring mine? Because you don't want to get there and you got people with two refrigerators. Now somebody has to go back, right? So small things like that aren't typically explained, right? When you're going to HBCU, especially if you're a first generation student, or you just might have guardians who are not familiar with the HBCU experience, you don't know what to expect. So I really want them to take away from this book a level of, okay, I'm prepared. I know what I need to do, how I need to go about things, and ultimately, I think one of the biggest things you can do, the best things you can do is prove friendly, be friendly when you get to almost any place, and the experience you have based off of how you act, it's going to change drastically.
Definitely, man. And that makes so much sense. So if it is somebody out there now, like it's college is expensive, it's stressful, you got people moving from across the country coming, what would you encourage those people to do as far as that mental health aspect? Of course, I'm a therapist, so I had to throw that in there because again, like we talking about Department of Energy, we seen what's going on with them as far as
Mhm.
financing. Um, like I mentioned, people coming across the countries, going to these different places, not knowing people.
Mhm.
What would you say for them to, take care of that mental health in those aspects?
Man, that's a huge one, and I'll go back because I was thinking about mental health for me or while I was in high school. And I don't even think mental health was never really talked about like that while I was in high school. If somebody had an issue, or they would just label them all the kids obviously, oh, they crazy, or and leave it at that, right? But when you think about it, you have these juniors and graduating seniors, they have a lot on their plate. I remember studying for the SATs. I don't know if people still do that, if that's still a thing now.
Optional for most colleges.
Yeah, so like studying for the SATs, am I going to get? I remember checking the mail looking for offer letters, or did I get into the school that I really want? A lot of people, depending on how much you got invested in these things, you get that rejection letter, it could break you. You know what I mean? It could really break you. So mental health at the high school level, right, is super important. And if you're a parent and you're watching this, understand the pressures that are on your child in trying to succeed and make it to the college level. But even in college, right? So many people, and I know you said most people have the same HBCU experience. So many students, when they get to college, their what's constantly on their mind is things going on back home. Oh, mom's sick. They struggling to pay my tuition. Things going back home. Your friends, you losing some of your friends that might have been back there. All of those things are happening while you're still trying to get the grades. You're still trying to navigate, campus life and being around new people, especially if you come from somewhere where you don't know anybody. Those things also weigh on you, and it can definitely can break you. I know most colleges and universities have offices where students can go and they can talk. The guidance counselors there are a good resource. And if anybody needs that, I would definitely encourage um, high school uh, students that are in college, seek out a therapist, right? And I was one of those people who say, hey, yeah, you don't really need. I don't need a therapist. I'm good. But you don't want to wait until something's bad, right? Because usually when it's bad, it's too bad and it's too late. So it's good to have those people that you can, kind of bounce things off of.
Now, I'm glad you was able to mention that. So now, like at this age that I am in this part in my career and my field, I'm fortunate enough to be able to go to different colleges and get booked to do presentations and talk to people, not just HBCUs, but PWIs as well. So one of the first things I encourage them to do is identify your resources on campus because that's important. Because even if you don't think you need them, you definitely want to be able to be in just knowing what that office is if you do need to talk to somebody, if you did
Mm-hmm.
get bad news from back home or you observe some on campus that doesn't sit right with you. So know what those resources are. So I'm glad you was able to touch on that.
Mm-hmm.
So now let me ask you this, man, before we wrap it up though. So how would you encourage one to balance self-care, studying, if they own a team, if they're part of a Greek organization, if they got work study, so many different things. Like how can you assist a freshman to a senior with balancing these things?
The biggest thing I would say it's super important in college and almost any other aspect of life is time management. Know your limits, right? You might not be able to finish that 30-page paper in 2 days, right? Set some time, right? All right, I'm going to do 2 hours. I'm going to dedicate to this. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go out, hang out with my frat brothers or my sorority sisters for an hour, right? Definitely got to have some discipline in there as well, right? The things that you might want to do as self-care. Obviously, if you're struggling college student like I was, you might not be going to get no mani pedis and no seafood boils right every weekend, but smaller things that could definitely ease the stress or any of the thoughts that you might be having. It's tougher when you're playing on a team. That is a demand, right? I remember when I went, it's meetings. You in the meeting practically all day, practice. Then you got a meeting. Then it's time to go to bed. Then you're doing it all over again. But definitely, like you said, I think the biggest thing is identifying those resources, right? Because I'm not a therapist. I don't never try to claim to be, but those therapists, those people can help you and tell certain techniques of what you can do to alleviate some of those stress and even manage your time a little better.
Yeah. So nah, that's good insight, man. So if somebody asks you deep down inside, Ron, do you think is a difference between a HBCU and a PWI? What would you say?
I would say yes.
What, would you
I,
like to elaborate? Like what aspects?
I would say, man, so many different. Now I've never been to a PW. Actually, I've been to a PWI. Like I went to a recruiting visit at ODU, right? So I've seen kind of how it is. Um, but to me, like I said, the relationships are super important to me. I value being able to go talk to my teacher during office hours and they remember me, they know me, right? They can identify who I am as opposed to going and talking to a teacher assistant, right? It's two different things, right? The HBCU experience to me is unmatched. Um, it's like going to a mom and pop restaurant, right? Where the owner comes out and talks to you, as opposed to going to a chain restaurant where you just a number cycling through. So to me, that's the best that's the best example I can give of the main difference between the HBCU and the PWI. And I said at the beginning of this book, while this book is written primarily for HBCU students, it might work at a PWI. I'm not sure. I'm sure they got like subsects within those PWIs, right? Typically, black people they typically gravitate towards each other. So you can try it out. I'm not sure. It's not tested, but yeah.
Nah, that's a good analogy that you just used as far as the restaurant and the owner coming out, being able to greet
Mm-hmm.
because it's that neighborhood feel, it's that community feel. So that's big, man. So hey man, we're about to wrap up. So if you would just tell people if you got anything else going on, where can they get the book and all those other things?
Oh man, yes. So the book is going to be it's available on Book Baby. It's available on Book Baby now. It's going to be released on Amazon July 21st. But if you want it now, hit up Book Baby. You can follow me on Instagram, Carlito5_way. I do have some physical copies. If you want those signed, you can reach out to me and I'll make sure I get them to you.
I got you. So what I'm gonna do, man, I'm gonna put the link in this thread as well, so people can go and get that. I'm sure they're gonna run it up, man, because it just came from graduation season, but now those seniors that just graduated, they're looking to be freshmen upcoming. So hopefully we can capitalize on that, man. And like we talking about, there's so many people now that are in school that probably can benefit from it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna go with that, man. So anything else? Drop your socials, media, and all that stuff, so people can follow you, stay connected with you.
Yeah, yeah. Again, IG, Carlito5_way. I'm on Facebook, Ronald Dingle. Uh, LinkedIn, Ronald Dingle as well. I'm not on. I don't do the TikTok thing. I haven't graduated to that level of youth just yet.
Nah, you good, man. Stay off TikTok. They about to ban it again
I
anyway.
hope so. I hope so.
But no, man, listen, it was good chopping it up with you. I'm sure people gonna attain a lot from your book. You know, I'm gonna make sure I spread it out. Got me a couple copies that I'm gonna hand out to people. Valuable information that people can utilize, not just the students, but of course the parents and different professors and faculty on these campuses as well. So we're gonna make sure we do our due diligence and get it out there, man. So I definitely appreciate you taking your time. And you know, we'll chop it up. Catch you at the next one.
Man, I can't let this end without thanking you again. Obviously, one for this opportunity to be interviewed, but man, the the all of the information that you gave me, you was probably one of the first people I went to trying to figure out, hey, what do I need to do for this book? Where should I go? You know, and the information that you provided me, man, to me is so it's priceless. I'm definitely grateful and super appreciative, man, of your contributions and all that you're doing in the community with mental health. Super important now more than ever.
Man, I definitely appreciate that. So I self-published my book too and started from scratch. Like I ain't had nobody to go to. So
Yeah.
my job was trial and error. And I'm just fortunate now, man, to be honest, my book is on residual. You know, just I look, you know, just it can just keep
Yeah.
going. So a lot of organizations buy, a lot of men buy, a lot of wives buy for their husband, a lot of parents buy for their young son. So I'm just fortunate, man. And I'm sure your book would do the same thing as well, you know, just because it's great content because it's one of those things that's needed. So I'm just happy that you was able to get past that hurdle of not holding on to the information because that's a part of it. Like I
Mhm.
remember being so dialed in to just driving in silence and talking to my phone for notes. You know what I mean? Like I was just adamant about getting it out within 3 to 6 months, you know, and then gave it to an editor and all that stuff, man. And then it was off to the races. So I'm glad the journey is similar to you, and I'm looking forward to you selling mass loads of copies as I did, you know. But nah, man, I appreciate it. Take your time, and I'll catch you on the next one.
All right, peace, man.